So the first experience is, why are you here in the first place? You come for the concert, you come to see James Taylor or Rod Stewart or whoever it is. That's the reason you're there. And then that's the first experience. But the second experience is what you walk away talking about. We didn't serve coffee. And so the concession person, they told him, sorry, we don't serve coffee. He said, okay, no problem. And he ended up, and I watched where he went and sat down. And as soon as he sat down, I went out the door, went across the street to a coffee place, got some coffee. I didn't know how he took it. So I just got black coffee, grabbed some sugars and some cream, put them in a cup, brought them over to his seat and gave him, he was blown away by that. Again, simple. It didn't take much of anything. It didn't cost me much of anything, but he'll never forget that moment that he had. That's what he's going to go walk away talking about.
But I am the world's biggest super fan.
You're like a super fan.
Welcome to the Business Superfans Podcast. We will discuss how establishing business superfans from customers, employees, and business partners can elevate your success exponentially. Learn why these advocates are a key factor to achieving excellence in the world of commerce. We discuss the invaluable insights of business owners who have successfully implemented the strategies in the book to build their own team of devoted superfans. Gain insightful knowledge from the experts who create applications that help you create passionate superfans. This is the Business Superfans Podcast with your host, Freddie D.
Ready!
This episode is brought to you by our sponsor, Ninja Prospecting, the outreach team that makes cold connections feel warm and real. If you're tired of spammy DMs and the generic LinkedIn messages that go nowhere, Ninja Prospecting flips the script. They help coaches, consultants, and service-based business owners spark real conversations through strategic, human-first outreach. No bots, no fluff, just honest, data-backed messaging that sounds like you and actually gets replies. Talk to my friend Adam Packard and his team. Whether you want to do it yourself, get guidance, or fully hand it off, they've got you covered. Head over to ninjaprospecting.com and schedule a chat with Adam. Be sure to mention you heard about it right here on the Business Superfans Podcast. If you're ready to get started, join their free community at school, SKOOL.com/ninja-prospecting-7704 to maximize your connections and make the right new ones. Hey, Superfan Superstar, Freddie D here. In this episode 137, we're joined by Scott Warren, a renowned author, speaker, and business culture expert with nearly 3 decades in the sports and entertainment industry. Scott has built a career in transforming mission statements into everyday realities, helping organizations create environments where both employees and customers feel genuinely valued. He's the visionary behind Preach Where You Reach, and owner of Frog Cape, where he guides leaders in cultivating purpose-driven workplace cultures that align values with actions. As the author of Preach Where You Reach, Bring Your Jesus to Work Every Day, and For the Love of God, Care About Your People, Scott blends faith-inspired principles, humor, and practical strategies to challenge businesses to lead with integrity and care. He is also the host of the Preach Where You Reach podcast, where he speaks authentic conversations about faith, culture, and leadership in the marketplace. Get ready for an inspiring conversation with someone who believes the heart of business is about truly caring for people. Welcome, Scott, to the Business Superfans Podcast. Super excited to have you on the show. You and I had a little bit of a great chat. We're on a similar wavelength of things that we're doing, so this should be a really exciting conversation for our listeners. And welcome again.
Appreciate it. Freddie, thank you so much for the opportunity. Looking forward to it. I'm a fan of the work that you're doing and creating super fans and trying to encourage everyone else to do the same. And I'm in the same boat, so I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Yeah, you're doing the same thing. So let's go back to the beginning. And what's your backstory? How did you come up with Frog Cape?
Long time. Great career. Absolutely loved it. Ran arenas and performing arts centers throughout the U.S. and Canada. And got an opportunity to work with some amazing artists, Paul McCartney, Garth Brooks, Elton John, etc. The list goes on. And it was amazing. I had an opportunity to create some special moments. When people come to those events, whether it's hockey, basketball, concerts, it's really an escape. And they want to get away from the day in and day out grind of the workplace and everything else. And so it's a bit of an escape. We have a real opportunity to create those sort of wow experiences. And so that was always in the back of my mind. I always enjoyed that side of things. And I moved to Florida in early 2019, and I figured I'm just going to stay in the same industry I've been in for so long. I'll just come down to Florida. There's events all over the place. I'll just do that when I get here. And it was right when COVID hit, and everything that I had known shut down entirely. There were no concerts, no basketball, no hockey. There's nothing going on. And look for ways to really use that passion I had for people and creating those great experiences. What else can I do with it? I did a number of things, whether it's some consulting work in different areas, wrote a couple books and things like that, but finally landed on an opportunity to have a consulting business and really pour into businesses because I saw a real need, whether they knew it or not. I could see it and I wanted to help.
Oh, what a story. Yeah, you met some very talented people in all aspects of the music industry, the sports industries, and it takes something to get to that level that those A players got themselves to, and you had an opportunity to really learn a lot from these individuals as well.
There's also a show to put on, and you're doing it as an escape. What I was passionate about was not only creating that experience for the people coming through the doors and buying tickets to the event. I wanted to create that amazing experience for the people that work there, the ushers, the ticket takers, the security, all of the people in the marketing department. How can I create a wow experience for them? That was my passion and the center of the culture I would create in any of the arenas that I worked in throughout the US and into Canada. And that was really it. How do I take that mindset of the show, the authenticity, the connection that the artist has with the audience? How do I have that with the people that I employ and those that we serve as well?
Well, you're stating an important thing there, Scott, and that's the fact that the ushers, people, they're just an usher. The reality is they're the front line. They're the ones dealing with the guest. So everybody in that equation that you just described is contributing to the guest experience. They're contributing to the performer's experience. And if that person feels undervalued, unappreciated, that's going to transcend. You can't hide that. And so that recipient of that person's mindset and the way they feel is going to give the guest a bad experience or a customer a bad experience.
Absolutely. Whatever you pour into your frontline folk, the passion that you have of your employees to show empathy, well, you need to show your employees empathy, and we've seen in what we've experienced. And I'll give you a little story. When we talk about pouring into our people and helping them, we all want to feel heard, seen, and valued. We all want that. And our line staff is exactly the same. I had an executive assistant when I was in Hamilton, Ontario, running the arena there in Canada. She was my executive assistant, and she was a passionate Garth Brooks fan. I knew she loved Garth Brooks. And we had Garth Brooks coming to the arena for 5 shows in 4 days. It was sold out. It was going to be amazing. And I knew that she loved Garth. I also knew that she was a really talented worship singer in her church. She could sing. I mean, she was so good. I teased her for about a year, knowing we were going to have the show, that I was going to ask her to ask Garth if she could sing with them backstage, not out on stage or anything. The day arrives when Garth comes into the building, and I said, I'm introducing my team to Garth. I saved Jen for last. I said, Garth, this is Jen. She's my executive assistant. And I may be a bit biased, but I feel like she's got an amazing voice. Would you to sing maybe a little bit of the chorus of The River, one of your songs, just backstage here, just to have that experience for her? And he looked at her. Now, first of all, that's not something you do in the industry, but I had heard enough stories about Garth that I felt comfortable doing that. I would never typically do that. And so Garth looks at Jen and he said, Jen, are you here? She said, yes. And he said, okay, I tell you what, why don't you come to sound check on Saturday and learn Trisha Yearwood's song, his wife, learn Trisha's song, How Do I Live? And we'll do it on stage with full band during sound check. And she's like, what? Now, keep in mind, he didn't know whether she could sing or not. He didn't say, hey, give me a little bit of a song. He just said, learn that song. We'll do it on stage with a full band. That day comes, the band's on stage playing with her, and he gives Jen a big hug, and her husband was with her as well. And he said to Jen and her husband, Greg, said, come on, let's go up. Go up on stage from the sound tech, gives it to Jen and says, the band begins. She starts to sing. As soon as she starts to sing, he looked at me and he says, are you kidding me? And I said, I told you. But the reason I say that is because your people matter. Your people matter. The way that you can help them feel seen and valued is to know who they are, know what their likes are, know what their passions are, know their favorite restaurants, whatever it may be. Know your people so that you can bless them in a way when you want to reward them for something, doing it with something that they enjoy. Jen will never forget that moment the rest of her life. It was just a moment to be able to say, hey, I see you and you're valued and I have the ability to give you this gift and I want to do it for you. I get nothing out of it other than the pleasure of knowing that she's been blessed that way. And that's incredible.
What you did there, Scott, is you did really like a little thing. You just asked Garth Brooks if he could sing a couple of hymns with him, in a sense. But for her, that was a big thing. So it's one of my sayings is the little things are really the big things. And so it was a little thing that you did, and it was a little thing that Garth Brooks did to just be a genuine human. But for her, like you said, it was a life-changing experience. And she's completely a super fan of you. She's now become a super fan of you from that moment.
It was amazing. Authenticity is really, really important. Maybe it's cliche, maybe you hear it overused, but authenticity to me is critical. I know just using those Garth Brooks examples, I had 100 ushers around. I stood up on a chair before the show and I thanked them. While I was thanking them, I got emotional. And I just wanted to let them know just how much it meant to me that they were there hour after hour, day after day. We had 5 shows in 4 days. It's a lot for them. And I wanted to express my gratitude in a sincere way. I stepped down from standing on. They came up one after another, gave me a hug and said, thank you, because they knew it was real. I could have just said, hey guys, great job. Good job this week. We got one more show to go. They knew that it was real. And it's really super important, I think.
You remind me of a story. Back in the late 90s, I was in charge of global sales for a software company. I was given a product that nobody knew about it, and my job was to get it on the map, grow it, and more importantly, grow it globally. And we ended up passing a threshold of $50,000 net sales to the company. So this is after the distributors get their cut and everything else. Brought in catered in lunch. I went and got it, set it up in a conference room. Nobody knew what was going on. The owner had no clue. Then I ran around and says, hey, meeting in 15 minutes in a conference room. Everybody, including the software guys and everybody else. And we got in there going, what the heck is going on? Why is he running around? And it got to be in there. It's mandatory. And we come in, and I just announced that, hey, we just hit a $50,000 threshold in sales. And I wanted to thank everybody for their contributions of making it happen. And we did that every $50,000 mark. Of course, they caught on after a little while. But the point was, though, I was expressing gratitude, just like you said, appreciation. And we had a little lunch party. We had some champagne bottles and everything else. And it was just recognizing everybody that contributed, because the software guy, he doesn't see all the action. He's busy coding, or she's busy coding. And by bringing them all in, they felt part of the equation.
So it doesn't take much and to have a powerful impact. One of the reasons why I do what I call an employee interest forum is so people, their favorite food, their favorite restaurants, their hidden talents, their hobbies, whatever it may be, so I can know about them personally, so that when it comes time to reward them, I reward them personally. I learned this back in 1998 with Faith Hill. At the time, with Faith Hill, not just with Faith, but all the artists that come to her, they would always get a gift from the building. And it typically was a hockey jersey or a NBA jersey with their name on the back. Of course, we were going to do the same. It's sort of what you do. And so 1998, I get a hockey jersey for our hockey team. And then I thought for a minute, I said, well, instead of putting Faith Hill on the back, what is she probably most proud of besides her career? And I'm guessing her family. I would think that would be important to her. So on the back of the jersey, instead of Faith Hill, I put Maggie and Glom and gave that to her, and she got emotional. And I knew from that moment, it has to be personal. I take someone like me, don't judge my eating habits. For me, if it's pizza, hamburgers, spaghetti, that's my passion. Now, he wanted to reward me and give me a gift card to a sushi restaurant. That's not going to mean anything to me. It doesn't speak to me. They don't know. It's just sort of this shallow, like hollow effort. But so when you get to know someone, when it's personal.
There's an example here that I'm going to show. Okay, if I gave you this water bottle, that's about me, right? It's totally about my brand. I put your name on it. It transcends from being about me to being about you. It's exactly what you're talking about. And it's just a little thing. You're talking about personalization. That's why I wanted to bring this up, because this is a perfect, clear example. You put someone's name on it or something that means something to that individual, even though you can still have your logo on it from a business marketing perspective. But now it's this is my water bottle. So don't touch my water bottle mindset. And that's really what happens. You bring up a really important point there, that little personalization is really, again, another small thing that really is a big thing for that person.
These things can be, companies all the time try to focus on how can we ramp up employee engagement? How do we get people more involved and passionate about the work that we do? And oftentimes it's so cliche, like, well, let's give them a mug with our logo on it. Let's give them some swag. Let's give them a shirt. We want to bless them with some sort of gift, a tea, whatever it is, a hat. That's fine. But that in and of itself is not the thing that they're looking for. Believe me, they're not looking for that. The love of God, care about your people, is about that sort of disconnect sometimes that happens with companies. They have a mission and they have values, but they're not functioning day to day in the organization, like really around. Those values, no decisions are being filtered those. I'll give you an example. I was talking with a company that did an employee engagement survey. And one of the things they asked on the survey was, do you feel your mental health and well-being is a priority to us? And it scored really low. Now, in a separate meeting altogether that had nothing to do with the survey, they have excess water bottles that they found. Not personalized like yours, they're just excess water bottles. And they wanted to kind of give those out. And I said, hold on, why you're doing this? You scored really low on mental health and well-being being a priority. You've got these water bottles. Okay, how about a letter that comes from the president of the company that says, hey, we know it's difficult day in and day out. It can be a grind, whatever. You don't get a chance to get out and get refreshed and renewed and refocused. But, here's a little something. Fill it up with some water and get outside. And all of a sudden, you've used the excess water bottles to tie into your low score of your engagement survey. And now all of a sudden, there's a win because they feel like you care about them and you got rid of some merch. So there's a way to really do it. I think businesses they come across just so short-sighted in those moments where there's real opportunities here. Yeah, it's transactional. It really is. And it needs to be a relationship.
And that goes back into one of the things I talk about is getting everybody in a racing rowboat where everybody's got one oar. You got to get everybody into the vision. So you got to get everybody involved as to what the company's about. Where does it want to go? What's its purpose?
Right.
How is it impacting people's lives? So you get everybody now you got to get everybody in synchronization because it's a single oar. If nobody's in sync, you're not even going in a circle. You're just waddling in place. But once you get that whole team top down in line, that boat sails and that company soars because of the fact that everybody's on mission and they know what the purpose is. But you've got to get yourself as a leader out of your own way and empower that team to be able to do that, and then recognize them when they're doing it and express gratitude for the things that they're doing, because they're the front line at the end of the day, like we talked about with the ushers. I had a guest on yesterday that used to live in San Francisco and now is living in Bordeaux, France. And he used an old term, secretary, so he dated himself. It's admin today. But he had a great name for the position, which was Director of First Impressions. And when I started to think about that, that's exactly right. That's the first impression of the organization. And usually that's the least recognized person, and people got it completely upside down. That's the front line. That's the first connection to anybody. Yes. A potential customer, an existing customer, a supplier, a distributor, a complementary business, your law firm, whatever it is, that's the first contact. That's the main contact. That should be edified at the
Yes.
maximum level.
Yeah, it's so simple.
Well, it's simple for us to talk about. It's just getting these people to implement it. Because let me use another example. There was a company that I was working with, and they had dealt with a lot of contractors. These contractors were providing services on behalf of this company. And their mindset was they should be grateful we're giving them work. And I'm going like, okay, you're like completely not getting it. These guys are going to your customer that you have a contract with to provide services. That's the front line. You're not the one that's going there. They're the one that's going there. So you want that person, that even though they're a contractor, to be fired up about the company that they're representing, because that reinforces that the customer made the right decision to go with your company versus the contractor going in and saying, oh yeah, I work for so-and-so. What do we got to do?
Right.
It goes back to the little things that are really the big things.
They really are. I think, and I say it's simple because it really is simple. You just have to care about the people. And I know that's hard for some. I know that if your mindset is more analytics, and so you're analytical, you've got profit loss, numbers focused, not to put anyone down, but typically your CFOs or your director of finance, that kind of thing, you are more focused on those numbers as they should be. It's harder for someone like that to have that sort of people focus. It doesn't come as naturally, I should say.
Let me just share a guy that was the accountant for the company. And people would need help with some technology and stuff. And so he would barge in and want to help. But he came in like a bulldozer. And so that didn't go over well. And then, so I'm just continuing with what you're saying about that personality type, because he was very, very technically focused. I worked with him for a while and just says, you got to express some gratitude. But once he started to transform a little bit, but I had to work with him, he wasn't so abrasive anymore because he started to realize he needed to express some gratitude to some of the fellow team workers because they were doing some stuff. And instead of chastising them for making a mistake, which is a typical that personality type, is turn around and really elevate that person and say, hey, I know you made a mistake. Here, let me show you how it's done in a more positive fashion versus a chastising fashion. So those people are difficult, but they're workable.
Yeah, it would be the same for me. I'm very much focused on the people and authentic care of the people. And so if you said, hey, Scott, instead of that, I really want you to focus on the numbers and analytics, I'd be just as out of my comfort zone, right? So I get it that it can be difficult for people. I think one of the things I try to do with my company, Fraudcape, is talk about the care framework because it really is, it sort of speaks to this in a way. So you've got CARE, you've got the culture, alignment, relationships, and empathy. And creating that culture that is a values-driven culture where people feel heard, seen, and valued, like we talked about before. They're living those at every level of the organization. And so you build that culture. Then alignment, it's got to have like this culture audit every now and again where you see if your stated mission and your values and everything is out of alignment with how you actually live and breathe in your organization as an employee, as a customer. Are you actually aligning with who you say you are? And then the relationships piece we talked about as well, authentic relationships, really investing in knowing those personal connections with your employees and your customers and actually having that relationship with them. And then again, the last piece, which we're talking about now, which is empathy. And same thing, leading with empathy, because everyone comes to not only the workplace, your business with real issues. I've had employees come to me with having miscarriages, domestic abuse issues, or attempted suicides and a death in the family. All of these things come to work with. And so when we have this care, we've got the culture and the authenticity. When you put all those things together, you have something that actually shows that you care about not only the people you employ.
Absolutely. And what you're doing there is you're creating super fans out of that team. You provide the care framework to that organization. It transforms that team into super fans. The way they handle their contractors, their suppliers, their distributors, their complementary businesses, that whole mindset shifts. And so now all of a sudden they're
Right.
treating their contractors with the same level that they're being treated, just like we talked earlier. They're recognizing their suppliers on a birthday or a distributor or a complementary business. And I had one guest on that talked about that they had built a relationship with their supplier. And they'd go out to lunch every now and then and things like that. Then when the pandemic hit, they needed 500 laptops like that. And so did everybody else want 500 laptops like that. Guess who got theirs first? Because of the relationship he had built with that supplier. So what you're really talking about, Scott, is it really begins internally in the company, and then it really transcends externally to all the stakeholders involved in that equation. And you transform that whole stakeholder into superfans, your business can only go one way, and that's skyrocketing up.
Absolutely. And one of the things we talked about in the entertainment industry is we always talked about the second experience. So the first experience is, why are you here in the first place? You come for the concert, you come to see James Taylor or Rod Stewart or whoever it is. That's the reason you're there. And then that's the first experience. But the second experience is what you walk away talking about. It could be not only the service, it could be a fish tank in the wall of the concourse, but it could also be how amazing the staff was, that when we were there for Disney on Ice, the usher asked if we could all get together, and they took our camera so they could take a picture of all of us together as a family. So mom or dad isn't out of the picture. It's that sort of simple. Again, we talk about this. It's so simple. You just have to care. And as soon as you decide, yeah, I want to care about the employees and I want to care about those we serve, man, it's powerful what can happen from that very simple decision. And you'll find that it's really simple to do.
Yeah, remind me, there's a book that I read. I think it's either Unapologetic Hospitality or something like that. That was about a restaurant in New York. Yeah, that's it. Unreasonable hospitality. And they would go out and say, okay, Scott, did you drive here? Are you parked at a parking meter? Well, they would go out, and this is a little thing that's really a big thing. They would make out and put in the quarters to keep the parking meter running for the guests so that they wouldn't have to worry and rush out to go put money in the parking meter and create a great experience.
Yes. Well, and that book, I love that book.
Right.
It's by Will Guidara. And so if you haven't read it, I encourage people to do that. But my favorite story in the entire book is about people that came to his restaurant after experiencing New York and all it has to offer from a food standpoint. They went to every amazing restaurant in New York, it seemed. And they overheard them talking, and they mentioned how the only thing they didn't really do is get a street dog or whatever they call them there in New York, a little hot dog from the cart on the corner. They didn't get that. And they heard that they didn't get that. They did is they went and bought hot dogs from that street cart, brought it in, had the chef, this high-end Michelin chef, put this on a plate with a little smear of mustard and a little bit of it, and actually presented that to them as a surprise. And they were blown away by it. Again, it's being in tune with what you hear, attuned with what people are saying. When you care, you have that sort of radar on to hear any of those sort of moments. And then what do you do with that? There was a time when I worked at the Wolstein Center at Cleveland State University. It was a basketball game. And there was a gentleman who wanted a coffee at the concession stand. We didn't serve coffee. And so the concession person, they told him, sorry, we don't serve coffee. He said, okay, no problem. And he ended up, and I watched where he went and sat down. And as soon as he sat down, I went out the door, went across the street to a coffee place, got some coffee. I didn't know how he took it. So I just got black coffee, grabbed some sugars and some cream, put them in a cup, brought them over to his seat and gave him, he was blown away by that. Again, simple. It didn't take much of anything. It didn't cost me much of anything, but he'll never forget that moment that he had. That's what he's going to go walk away talking about, not the basketball game, but he's going to talk about that moment.
You read my book. One of my chapters is
Is
the
that right?
unexpected extra.
So important.
But it changes the dynamics forever. I mean, that little coffee thing completely made, and he's going to talk about that for life.
That's right. Yeah.
The little things are really the big things.
Yeah.
People don't realize that a little bit of goodness is very impactful. And more importantly, it can become contagious. The pay it forward. You know, I've pulled into a McDonald's and getting the McMuffins and I see someone behind me cover their thing, and people go away, and then
Right.
people have done it to me, and those are
Yes.
things that you go, wow, that was really cool, that was thoughtful, and it was a little thing for that person. What, $10, $5, whatever.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully they didn't get a big order behind you. It's like they got one of everything. But it is great when you can do those little things. And I just encourage everyone to literally authentically care about the people that you employ and the people you serve. When you have that mindset, when that's your default position, you look for those opportunities to bless somebody, to whether it's an employee with a gift card to their favorite restaurant or tickets to their favorite band in concert that's coming to town, or take care of your client with an unexpected coffee.
I remember when I was, again, back in selling manufacturing software, one of the IT managers at a company that was one of my bigger accounts and was a major referral source that was giving me pre-qualified, ready to buy, like I mentioned before we started recording, where all I did is fill out the paperwork and got a brand new customer because so-and-so said they should get this stuff. But when he was going through a divorce, who sat at the bar with him listening to everything else that was going on in his life and just being a friend? Sometimes in business, you got to,
Yeah.
like you talked earlier about somebody going through a challenge, a personal life challenge as an usher and stuff like that. Sometimes you got to stop playing business and you actually got to be a human and be a friend and just listen.
Yes. So funny to be able to just to be willing to pivot. When you have a meeting with a client and that client just went through a difficult divorce, for example, yes, you've got a meeting, but maybe in that time period, maybe the meeting's not the most pressing thing. The business will still be there. And you may not be there to solve anything. You may just be there to sit in it with them and just be present. And that's amazing. It's like, yes, we have a business and yes, this is important and we'll get to that. But right now, what's most important to me is you. And there was a story in book about a Nordstrom salesperson, how there was a senior couple, a woman who wanted to go get shoes at Nordstrom, the big annual sale or half annual, whatever it was. And she wanted to get some shoes. Well, when they got there, it was packed. There were people everywhere. And she told her husband, I don't think I'm going to do that. We'll just come back another day. At that moment, a salesperson came up and said, hi, may I help you? And she's like, well, I came here for this shoe sale, but it's so busy. We're just going to come back another time. And he said, no, no, no. How can I help you? Right now, you're the most important customer here. How can I help you? And she ended up walking away with several pairs of shoes. But that whole concept of forget the noise. Right now, the person in front of me, this customer at the boba shop or whatever it is, this person is the most important person I'm going to have all day. You've got my undivided attention. How can I help you? And then when the next customer comes in, okay, they're the most important one you're going to have all day. And it's just having that mindset all the time to be able to really create the best possible experience. And they're going to be walking away.
Absolutely. And it didn't cost you money. You actually end up making more money out of the transaction because of the way that you handle the situation.
Right.
So,
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a situation one time where there was a show that we did in our arena. It was Barney, I think, the dinosaur, right? So we had Barney. There were some flashing lights, and one of the kids in the show had a seizure as a result of the flashing lights. Parents had to were going to take the child to the hospital. They were okay, but they wanted to check them, make sure they were okay. And so they told me they were going to take the child to the hospital, but they weren't going to see the show. And I said, I tell you what, obviously you're going to miss this show, and this show's going to be here today and gone to the next city. But if there's any family show, and at the time I was working in Cleveland, if there's any family show, whether it's in my building at the Wolstein Center, the college building, Cleveland State, or if it's in the NBA building 5 blocks down the road, it doesn't matter where it is in the city. If there's a show you want to go to, you let me know and I've got it for you. I'll take care of it. Literally, probably 8 months later, they call me and they said, Scott, we saw that Disney on Ice is going to be coming to the other arena, not yours, but the other one. You had mentioned something. Is that still okay? And I said, I've got you. Let me make a call and I'll get back to you. I immediately called the arena. They said, yep, we'll take care of you. I talked to the producer of the show and they said, you know what? We've got you. We're going to take care of the tickets. We're going to take care of everything. And then in fact, what they did is they did merch bags for the couple kids that were part of that when they came to the show. Family was blown away. Again, it didn't make me any money. It could have cost me money if they had made me buy tickets, which I was willing to do. But when you tell the story, everyone's like, how can we help? What can we do? And that just having that mindset, and that family will be talking about that story for a long time, and it wasn't even in my arena. The negative thing was my arena. The positive thing was that arena, but they remembered me for the positive thing that this arena did for them. Yeah, it's gone, but they will remember that experience, and I don't need credit for it. I think that's the other thing. I don't need credit for them having a great time in that other arena. I just need them to have a great time at the other arena. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay that happened. What will transpire from that, if they'll come back to my building and buy other shows, not my concern. My concern is only to do the right thing and to care about the people.
Exactly. It comes back tenfold anyway. So, Scott, as we get close to the end here, tell us a little bit more about the book and how can people find you?
Well, the book is called For the Love of God, Care About Your People. It's how authentic care transforms workplace culture and human connection. And you can get it at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and you can go to frogcape.com. It's my consulting company, and we help businesses that are looking to bridge the gap between their stated mission and values and actually bringing that to life in the company. If something's gone out of alignment, we want to help bring that back into alignment and do it through that care framework and really helping people care about the people that they employ and the people they serve.
Great conversation. You and I could talk for this on probably for days, not hours.
Correct.
So really appreciate your time. You and I are on the same
Yes.
page on this stuff. So it's really nice to chat with somebody that gets it and understands what we're both looking to transform businesses. And we definitely would love to have you back on the show down the road. And thank you for your time. What a powerful conversation with Scott Warren. This episode is tied to the Superfans framework, Pillar A, automate. Reclaim time with smart systems. It's all about using technology and AI to free up your time so you can focus on what truly drives growth. Scott reminds us that automation isn't about replacing people. It's about empowering them to do their best work. Here's my challenge to you. Identify one task this week that you can automate, whether it's scheduling, follow-ups, or reporting. When you do, you'll reclaim hours of time you can reinvest into building stronger relationships and scaling your business with confidence. And remember, one action, one stakeholder, one superfan closer. Until next time, keep building your superfans. Thank you for listening, and know this, when you do, freedom follows.
We hope you took away some useful knowledge from today's episode of the Business Superfans Podcast. The path to success relies on taking action. So go over to businesssuperfans.com and get your hands on the book if you haven't already. Join the Accelerator community and take that first step in generating a team of passionate supporters for your business. Join us on the next episode as we continue guiding you on your journey to achieve flourishing success in business.